Hi, Russell Cummings. Thanks for joining us for our online training program on improving your productivity. What we really want to work on here is how can you suck that extra 8 hours out of every week. So how do you find an extra 8 hours in every week? It's not about working longer, it's about working smarter. I'm going to show you how to do that and work you through the program. Now this is the training course is a companion to our webinar series, one of our webinars we've run in our series, and you'll find a link to that webinar down below. So you might want to go and watch the webinar first to give you a good overview of everything, and then come back and we're going to focus on particular areas. It might help you to pick out modules where you feel you need to put your work into up front. So let's just get started with a bit of an introduction, and let's talk about one of the key areas. So I love this quote from Mike Abel. It says, if you can't do your job in a 10-hour day during the week, you're either overworked or incompetent. Now, I think most of us like to think we're overworked rather than incompetent, but I'm sure we've also, I know I've been technically incompetent plenty of times. So, I guess it's a real challenge. And when we start to think about managing time and being productive, and I've done just about every time management course and read every book known to modern man on the subject, a couple of questions pop up for me. One of the first one is, what happens if we don't get everything done? I mean, we rush around and we think about all the things that we need to do, and we get all stressed about everything else. But quite often, if we don't get things done in time, the universe adjusts for us and things move around, and we somehow get by and we manage. So, often what happens is you get late with a deadline. You can often stretch deadlines. Deadlines are often arbitrary dates we set for things, unless it's a court case or something else. But even then, they extend those with different things. You may miss opportunities, and that's something you probably don't want to do. It may give you an opportunity to give poor client service as well. So I think it's about then focusing on the things that are important so you get the right things right. And there are 3 words that really drive home good productive time management for me. The first is focus, and we really need to be focused. It's for me, that's about being in the moment and not distracted, and having a clear, I don't say focus is the wrong word, but having a clear understanding of what's required and clear expectations of what you're trying to achieve. For me, that's about focus. Second key word then is discipline. So you need to be disciplined, and I'm talking about self-discipline here, right? That I'm not talking about you have to go and give yourself a flogging. What I'm saying is that you need to be self-disciplined so that you stop doing some things and focus on others. Yeah, and then that gives us this last word, really important word here, which is about control. Okay, and control is really important to me because you need to be in control. Now, what I'm not saying is, I'm not saying you have to be the boss. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you need to take control of the elements that are within your sphere of influence that you can control. Okay, so they could be things like your email, your phone, distractions, all those sorts of things. And then there's, I guess, one other word series that I want to talk about that is not on a slide. And it's about work hard once. Okay, so sometimes being productive is setting up systems and processes and taking control of things, if you like. And to do that requires a bit of extra effort. And I think it was a seminar I went to recently with a guy called Taki Moore. Hi Taki, if you're listening. He talked about work hard once. Okay, so get stuck in, do it once, do it properly, and then make sure that you're building systems that give you leverage going forward. All right, so there are 3 key words: focus, discipline, control, and then work hard once. All right, time management. This is a pyramid that you're probably familiar with. Certainly my clients will be familiar with it from other areas in terms of business growth and development, but I think it also applies to time management. And for me, there are 3 key areas. And I guess it does follow Simon Sinek's stuff on why. Why, how, and what are you doing, and what are you doing? And it comes down to 3 things: beliefs or attitudes, waste, which is about inefficiency and what is it that you're actually doing, and then lastly, the structure. Are you doing things well, and are you using all the tools at your disposal? So we're going to work through sort of this sort of model, and and as part of the course, we're going to work with you in different ways to actually help you implement this model. Now, the first one is around beliefs or attitude, and it comes back to this question of, if you're like me and you've read over all the time management books, you've been to a couple of courses, you've had the diaries, you've had the systems, you've had everything else, why are you still a poor time manager? Okay, and I think it's a really important question, and we often don't ask it enough. And for me, it comes back to probably three things in this sort of belief things. It comes back to your attitude. Okay, so we've got to think about our attitude and where that comes from. I think it's also about being really productive, is about diet and exercise, and we'll talk a bit about those. And then lastly, it's about having enough sleep. And they're the three things that I focus on in this sort of beliefs area. So let's talk quickly about those. Attitude. So attitude for me is a function of three things. It's a function of your focus. So what are you doing? It's a focus of your work ethic. That's about your inner drive, and some people have a really strong work ethic and other people don't have much of one at all. And then it's about motivation, and motivation for me is in the moment and what's driving you to get this done. Okay, so if you like, you've got your top level is about having some clarity about what you're trying to achieve and why you're trying to achieve it. Work ethic is something that I think is within you. And your work ethic may change depending on the focus. So if you're focused on something you really like doing, and maybe this is about motivation as well, I suppose, it's probably more than work ethic. So your work ethic is something that I think that comes back to your central core values. And I was brought up in a family where it was all, we talked about, well, you work hard and you get places. I don't know if that's necessarily right, but it's certainly the values I was brought up with. So I have quite a strong work ethic. So hard work doesn't faze me. It's more about being smarter at what we do. And I think to be productive, it's not about actually working harder, it's about working smarter. So sometimes you've got to understand that work ethic, because it can be driving you to do things. With me, I found that I was working long hours because I've been told all my life that the harder you work, the more successful you'll be. So I just kept working harder and harder and harder, and the two aren't necessarily linked, let me tell you. So get an understanding of that work ethic and how it's driving you and how it affects your attitude to being productive. Okay, and then your motivation. So think about your motivation. What's really driving you in this space, and are you really motivated? And are there any external factors acting upon you that may cause your attitude to change or cause you to be non-productive? And I'll give you an example. I worked with a business, and one of the gentlemen in that business was working very long hours. Nobody could actually understand why he was working very long hours. And I spent a bit of time with him and found out he was actually having some marital issues. And rather than go home and face the music, he decided to stay at work and keep working and making work for himself. So he became extremely unproductive in order to avoid something else. So think about your motivation. Now we sorted that issue out with a little bit of counselling and facing up to the music, and away he went, and he went back to being his normal productive self. So attitude's really important, but my very strong belief in this space is, with a poor attitude, you will never be truly productive. And it's an attitude towards productivity, about being productive, and that's about doing things efficiently, effectively, as fast as you can. So you need to think about this and say, okay, which area do I need to work on, and what are some of the things that we need to do? And you'll find there's an exercise below that'll help you work through some of this. Also mentioned diet and exercise and sleep are really important, and there's a great book by a fellow called Tom Ruth, and Tom's an author of another book that I recommend called Strength Finder 2, and or 2.0, I think, as the Americans would say, 2.0. My apologies again to any Americans. It's a great book. Tom has a particular genetic disorder which predisposes him to cancer. He doesn't have a number of the mechanisms that most of us have to fight cancer in our bodies, and so all his life he has been producing tumours and other things. So Tom has then looked at what are the things you have to do to minimize the amount of cancer you have growing in your body and the number of tumors that he has. He had a direct measure of that sort of stuff. It's a great book, well worth reading. The key tenets in it are you need to think about what you eat, and we need to eat things that give us energy and make us productive. You need to move and exercise, because exercise is really important. So sitting in your chair all day is not the most thing to make you the most productive. You need to get up and move around. Exercise is a stimulant to other things around metabolism and other things as well. So it helps to keep us on the move. Boom, boom. And then lastly, we need to sleep. And the scary part is the research has shown us that sleep is critical. Research has shown that we need between 7 and 9 hours sleep for optimum performance. Despite some people, I think recently, I've forgotten his name now. The the American guy who's running for president, Donald Trump, was bragging that he only has 4 or 5 hours sleep a night. Well, you can get by on that, and I for a very long time got by on 4 or 5 hours sleep every night. But what happens is you just learn to function at a suboptimal level. So you can do it, but you're not actually performing at your best. Here's a great example. There's an app. I've got an app called Sleep Cycle, which is actually a nice little alarm clock, but it also monitors your sleep patterns. I don't know how it does it, but it does. You just put it on the bed next to you or close to you, and it monitors it. And here are 2 consecutive nights. One night where I got 6 hours sleep, and another night where I got 8 hours sleep, eight and a bit hours sleep. You can see there that the big difference was the sleep quality. So it looked at the quality of my sleep, and you can see on the short thing, I didn't go into a deep sleep for very long. I kept waking up and coming back to it. So my sleep quality was only 70%. Whereas you saw the next night where I spent longer time in bed, and I've done this a number of times, and it plays out nearly every time. I had a much better night's sleep. Okay, my sleep quality was 100%, so I stayed in that sleep mode for much longer, and in deep sleep for quite a lot longer. So understand that diet, exercise, and sleep are absolutely critical, as is having the right attitude to being productive. So you need to think about why you're not productive, what's driving that for you. Focus, motivation, work ethic, what is it for you, and how you're going to make it happen. All right, so that's the first section of our time management pyramid. You'll see some exercises below. I'd like you to work through those. And then in subsequent videos, we will work through, or modules in this course, we'll work through different elements of waste and structure to help you get better at improving productivity in your business. All right, I hope that makes a little bit of sense to you. If not, just flick me an email, and I'm really happy to have a chat with you about this. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.